Welcome to Nerd Stalker. I'm Adolfo Ferranda. It's 2016, numero uno. And at Nerd Stalker on Twitter with my buddy.
Social Greg, Greg Gloria, aka Social Greg on Twitter for the Nerd Stalker Media Network. Hey, Happy New Year, man. Happy New Year, everyone.
How
you doing?
January 10th as of this recording, everyone. I'm doing good. Doing good. Holidays were great, and the whole thing. Looking forward to this new year. A lot of exciting stuff to see what's happening this year. How you doing, man?
Good. Doing a lot of video work for the channel, and man, there's a lot of cool stuff coming out there. We have CES this week, or we just finished CES this week.
Oh man, I know. Lots of news coming out of there.
And then you have the for your Buy Tech fans, we have the JP Morgan healthcare event happening near Union Square this week too. So a lot of stuff happening in the city this week. A lot of stuff happening, but let's talk about stuff we want to talk about. How's that?
Sounds good. Sounds good.
So what's this thing about everything Google is working on for the next year? They have a wrap on that?
Yeah, let me get this thing up here. What I like about this story from Ars Technica, and thank you to Ron Amadeo for this, is that it kind of touches onto a lot of the things I want to talk about in terms of trends and things I'm looking forward to this year in terms of tech and sort of, tech and what relates to this. So let me share my screen here. Let me know when you see it there, Greg. Is it up there? Yeah, cool. So so this is it. What's cool about this is you see a lot of the things that Google's working on. A lot of their sort of spin. What Alphabet really is working on is what the title should be, but no one knows that Google's Alphabet.
Oh, they're working on me.
Yeah, there you go, Greg.
TV
right there. But what I love about it's a lot of things, because after this really is I'm gonna touch on things that I'm looking forward to this year too, in terms of things that I really got my eye on. And so a lot of it is, I'm finding more and more in my life, and I'm sure in your life, Greg, too, is the use of Google apps. Like we're using Google Hangouts right now, Google Docs. I'm using Google Spreadsheets increasingly, all kinds of stuff from Google Gmail, Google Calendar. They're really doing cloud perfectly, and this is from a Mac guy, and I've tried Apple apps and iCloud and things like that, but it's so clunky and disjointed, and they just don't do it as elegantly as Google quite yet. And so this is it. Anyways, in terms of what they're working on and their expansion and they seem to be getting better at this more and more. Things like what they're working on this year, something called like Verily Verily is the new name for Google Life Sciences. The group was just got rebranded with a snazzy new website. Group's working on baseline study, the smart contact lens, and a wrist computer that reads diagnostic nanoparticles injected in the bloodstream. So really crazy stuff. Another one is Sidewalk Labs. I'm not exactly sure what these guys do. It's a group that wants to apply moonshot thinking to city life, whatever that means. And then, of course, there's DeepMind, which is an AI, artificial intelligence group under Alphabet. The division for Google X's self-driving car. Also a robot. Recently had someone appointed as CEO. And then we see Google Fiber, right, which is not top-level Alphabet company. It's been rolled into the Access and Energy division or whatever of Google. And then we see it and then also the Google On Hub routers, part of that as well, that we see, and Titan drones. And then they're also adding ATAP to the Google section, since it seems like it should be an Alphabet company, given that Regina Dugan, the former head of DARPA, is running it.
Wow.
For now, Google recently confirmed to Mashable that it's still part of Google proper. The full name of the unit is Google Advanced Technology and Products. So super interesting stuff. And probably a lot of the reason I brought this story up in particular is, I'm going to stop sharing this thing, is just some of the things I wanted to think about for this year, and things that I have my eye on that are already sort of touching and starting to make some changes. We're starting to see these items that we thought as being really kooky ideas and sort of borderline conspiracy type of talk, and tinfoil hat talk, that are becoming real things. So things like, I've been thinking about autonomous vehicles. So we brought up the Google car, but that's becoming a real deal. And later in the story that I'm going to talk about, we'll go more in depth into that. But that and also tech, which sort of piggybacks on that thought, tech replacing human jobs. And this seems to be also a trend that is starting to pan out as well. And then another thing I've noticed having a kid, I have a 10-year-old daughter, is kids MMO games, so massive multiplayer online games. And there seems to be this underground economy that a lot of people, at least the non-parents and haven't been touched in, there's a big base of users and money to be made and money being spent right now on these things. Something like something called Animal Jam is a hugely popular one, where parents are buying memberships for their kids, or buying these diamond things for their kids, and the kids are socializing with each other online, oftentimes doing FaceTime type of stuff simultaneously while playing the game virtually together. This is, I think, something to watch in this year as well, the growth of that. And biohacking. This is something Greg and myself have been talking about for years now, and it's really hitting the fore now and becoming big time. And I think increasingly so, it will be even bigger this year. And then piggybacking on top of that is science, longevity, and disease combating science. That type of stuff seems to be getting better and better in the information we're getting on it. I know I'm doing a lot of kooky stuff, like a lot more sort of meditation and sauna usage, and I want to get into other type of things like that has a direct result of laboratory science findings and research, real research. This isn't any sort of kooky stuff. And again, that was all thought as kooky stuff previously. And the next thing I wanted to think about also this year to keep an eye on is adoption of agility in organizations, so agile practices, and to see how that is going to either pan out, whether for the benefit of these big organizations, or is it going to flop? Things like Scrum and all these different sort of practices and implementation. It seems like more and more every startup seems to be going this way with agile, some sort of agile practice, whether it's Kanban, Scrum, or whatever, or just agility in general, and bigger companies. And I'm curious to see the companies, the traditional waterfall companies, if they're going to fall by the wayside due to these guys eating their lunch eventually, or not, to see how this trend goes. Also, things like the Amazon Echo. Obviously, I've talked in length about the Amazon Echo on our podcast, and it seems to be just integrating more and more with a lot of third-party type of options and becoming a lot more useful as time goes on. And I really look forward to seeing how this type of technology grows as well within the home and things like that. Also, things like cutting the cord and things like Kodi, which was formerly XBMC, an open source type of product, which is fantastic for you cord cutters out there, where you can find legal free content to watch, as well as your nefarious stuff if you need to, or not so legal stuff, I should say. But in terms of a media center, how you can use it on various devices, ubiquitously on Linux devices, Android devices, Amazon devices, all kinds of things. It doesn't even need to be on a computer anymore. Well, everything is essentially a computer now. And then the next thing also, which piggybacks on that, is items like the Apple Television, the Amazon Fire, the Roku, and the Chromecast, because they're all sort of becoming this commoditized same type of thing, where there's a sort of like a TV type of view, and there's gaming integration that's starting to happen with these things, and music and sort of photos, and all one easy place with your television as being a sort of dumb monitor in essence. And how this is going to affect the traditional cable industries, as well as these companies that I've just mentioned. So these are a few of the things that I'm sort of watching this year that I see as a huge potential for exponential growth, and that we're going to see, and we've already seen in real world, and where it's going to become, I think, a daily, very common type of thing to talk about and go forward. So that's it.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, I think what you kind of caught on to there was kind of the same things I've been thinking about. Like last year, we attended the kind of regenerative science, and it's way over our heads. But what this event was promoting, kind of international collaboration instead of just localized collaboration in just one country like the U.S.
Right.
And trying to figure out how to fast track these health science kind of solutions using stem cells, regenerative medicine.
100%.
But but one of the things that was brought up, which I think the debate's going to continue this year, as you kind of alluded to in a way, is the idea of lifespan extending lifespan or extending health span for our golden years of our age, or whatever, wherever we're having,
Right.
it could be anywhere, right?
Right.
It got me thinking a lot about that. And when you talk a lot of the health people, health span seems to be the more of the focused area. How can we, run a high level of efficiency through our golden years up until we eventually pass away, right?
Right.
And,
I know Peter Thiel is a famous VC. Is one of the things that he's putting a ton of his money into was, we've talked about this before, was this life extension stuff and fighting death, basically, right? The whole concept of that. And I don't even like I kind of don't like the term. I'm starting to not like the term life extension or longevity, because it's really are just our bad choices that we've been making, or maybe we need some supplementation, or maybe there's some biotech that can help us as well, or things that we've been ingesting, changes we can make in order for our, for the benefit of our life, and potentially combat these sort of diseases that seem to attack us in our older years.
Right.
So it's just behaving in a smarter way for health and things like that.
No, and I agree with you. Autonomous vehicles. We ran that article with the USC guy down in when he's talking about kind of autonomous and where we're at with that. And current state is that we're nowhere near the number of hours logged in to really provide a safe vehicle yet, but it is coming. It isn't like they're ignoring it. Why would Apple and Google throw billions of dollars at this?
Right.
But at the same time, his concern is that how do these autonomous vehicles do with a mixed mode? There's still going to be people driving their car.
Yeah.
There's still going to be people making human decisions with their car.
Yeah.
So how do these things coexist? Now, do you go to the model where you have a autonomous vehicle freeway system and a human vehicle system? One would imagine, or do we go to this drone-like thing that I've read a lot about, where you get an autonomous drone and that delivers you to work, which has no freeway.
Right. Well, also, a lot of people aren't talking about, and I would argue that it's the workplace itself is part of the problem, because a lot of these jobs, people don't really need to go into work. I mean, they could be doing a lot of this stuff remotely. You could be doing, and think about how much, if you really have an office job and you're sitting on your butt, chances are you really don't need to go to work. You don't have to drive into an office. I mean, because you can virtually attend a meeting, you can, remote into your computers or your servers or whatever. So I really take issue with all this of commute talk,
Yeah, well, and chances are, right, is that you better go look for another job, because it could be one of those jobs going to be replaced with automation.
Eventually, I think a lot of it too. So that brings up, our the next scenario. Then what happens in a post-job economy? If that is the case.
Yeah,
that's sort of the end game, right? If that's truly the end game, total productivity, right?
I mean, it's part of the reason why you and I do this as side gigs or gigs ourselves, is that relying on one thing anymore is really dangerous. But evolving and adapting yourself to this environment around you, whether it's a work environment or job environment, is very important these days.
Right. Well, it's tough because we get mixed messages, because there is that talk, and then there's also the talk of mastery, right? So staying on one thing and get making knives, for example, and becoming a master knife maker, there's something to be said for that, right? But if suddenly the robots are making the knives, then so you can see sort of both sides of the coin, right?
Absolutely. You talk to Steve Hoffman at Founderspace, an angel investor, and entrepreneur, and everything. When you talk to him about robots and stuff, he said he's just resigned himself that it's coming.
Oh, yeah,
So,
I think so too.
right.
I think so too.
Right, and the question is, are you smart enough to see exactly where these paths are going? But when you look at the U.S., where manufacturing jobs have left, we're tied to China very heavily, which is scary. Especially what's going on right now with the markets. and you're left with a bunch of service jobs here in the United States servicing ourselves. And those are the jobs that are being targeted with automation and robotics.
Yeah, and AI. A lot of people forget to talk about AI. I mean, that's huge. It's huge. I mean, when people think, that's why it's good to learn STEM and become a programmer. Again, we've talked about this, but eventually the AI will be better programmers than our programmers, potentially.
Well, someone was asking me the other day, we were talking like, Greg, what do you used to? Well, I said I used to code at very low levels at the microprocess level, which is really not needed anymore, but now, and we're going to talk about this next thing, especially with this Firefox OS that's kind of getting dumped, is, these things are just devices that we use now. They're tools, right? They're like a wrench and a screwdriver. So, you don't need to program at a very low level unless you want to maybe optimize it for speed or optimize it for other things, just like you always do, right? Yeah. But there really isn't any reason to code at a lower level unless you really have to, and so now that's why everyone has the ability, like you said, through lynda.com or Udemy or anything, to learn how to code and learn how to code and code effectively, and so and that kind of pivots the educational system, if you kind of think about that, right? What is the role of the traditional educational system in this new tech economy or this new economy? Will be redefining itself, and you see it just on the fringes redefining itself, right? It's the
like you mentioned, it's crazy because it's changing month by month, literally. Like I said, all these things that we're bringing up was crazy talk just a couple of years ago. Automated cars, drones, automated drones,
Jetsons,
life extension. Life extension was like a kooky type of term,
absolutely.
Right? For wackos, who want to put themselves in cryogenic chambers when they die. It's like that was crazy talk.
And I think what we're everyone wants to say the future is now, which is kind of the the ubiquitous term, but I think what is happening, and you can see this in our local Silicon Valley SF tech economy, that we're pivoting very fast. So this fear about this bubble, like in the internet construction days, I call it the internet construction days in 1999, 2002, that bubble. It's a different type of bubble this year. This thing I see in the Silicon Valley here, there's so many different emerging tech vehicles to get onto these days. It's ridiculous in the Valley. It isn't big data. If it isn't big data, it's autonomous vehicles. It isn't autonomous vehicles, it's AI. If it isn't AI, it's blah blah blah, right? And I kind of wonder if really maybe bubbles will burst, like is there a Foursquare anymore type of thing, right? Right, to these newer economies being generated by us, right? So it's interesting times. It's an interesting time to watch, especially from our point of view as observers, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure we're going to be feeling it with this market correction that's happening, layoffs that are happening currently, and things like that. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll figure. Okay. Well,
all right, brother. So next story is what do we got going on here? Mozilla. You keep mentioning Mozilla. Why are you mentioning Mozilla so much?
Well, I remember years ago when we first started this podcast, we talked about Tizen. We talked about all these other,
That was by the way, people, don't listen to my prediction, because I was telling Greg, you watch, Greg, Tizen is going to be everywhere. In your face, dummy.
No, Greg. We would never do that to
Greg
Adolfo.
Doesn't know about Tizen.
We will never do that to Adolfo. But what has happened is that there's been two powerhouses, right? We talked about Apple iOS and Android, and that's where everyone's developing on these days. But, in China, it was very, they're just taking the Android system and it's morphing it. So what has happened is that OSs like Firefox, which came out about, which I think, came out like 2011 or something like that, has now just been another thing for someone to think about. So with all these dollars getting tightened, I really figure it's the investment dollars. Who has enough money not only to release an iOS app, but to release an Android app, but release something else, right? I mean, right. And I think the Windows Phone kind of proved that model out as well, right? And I think that's why last month Mozilla announced that they're just dropping all their partnerships with smartphone manufacturers with sell handsets that run Firefox OS. I mean, I don't think I've seen a Firefox OS phone in the United States. At least
No.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think I've seen one, at least extensively advertised. But I think in the Asian countries it was starting to get at least a little bit of traction. But
in Africa too, I think, or something.
Yeah, but I mean, what do you think? I mean, going back to this conversation we had earlier about these devices being tools now, does OS matter anymore?
That's a great question. Yeah, that's a great question. I think to some extent the general game has been won. Right. Apple and Android, let's face it, are pretty much it. With some sort of partial players in other countries, whether you're talking South America or Africa, as we mentioned, or Asia, which is a lot of different things. But that's kind of it, and it's funny too, because this is yet another pick that I was very hopeful on, the Mozilla Firefox OS. And what I've actually seen, which is an interesting trend, is a lot of their top people. I know Christian Haleson, I forget his name, who was one of the leads on this. He was definitely an evangelist for Microsoft Firefox OS. I saw him actually do a talk in San Francisco. Left and actually is with Internet Explorer now with Microsoft, and that team, some of them I know have went to work on the new IE browser, which really is fantastic, and a lot of it is HTML, IEEE compliant. So they're finally doing a lot of they're following web standard protocols, and they got a lot of these guys who that's their philosophy doing it. So if Microsoft has taken that torch, what happens to Mozilla? Because that was their sort of their platform. That is, there is standards-based, open source, all of that. And now IE, which is a monster, they're the company that can afford to do this, if we're saying this. But they seem to be playing to everyone now, smartfully so, I think, like they're playing nice with Android and iOS. But as far as do we need another OS on mobile? I don't know, man. I don't think so.
Yeah, I think these guys are good business people. I mean, at Samsung and I think, and whatever smartphone company you want to name here, this investment into their devices and the hardware is getting tougher and tougher in terms of competition every year, right? And I mean, you can see how much they're strategically placing announcements around Apple iOS events, launches and all that stuff, just trying to get that little extra edge of announcements so that they can make sure that their Samsung 6 looks better than the iOS 6S and the Apple 6S and all that stuff. But that's what it's come down to. It's scaringly commoditized in a funny way around.
Yeah, you're right. I think what I love about companies like Mozilla, organizations like Mozilla, is that they're sort of the company that keeps these other big dogs in check. So like Microsoft obviously got completely proprietary, completely out of hand, and look what happens. They end up becoming one of the torchbearers for standards, and things like that now, thanks to Mozilla, I think, in large part. So I think that's where I'm reluctant to say, do we need another, OS? Maybe yes, maybe no, but we definitely need like someone like Mozilla to keep these beasts in check,
I agree with you. I think the startup community is going to do that, right? There's going to be all these things, whether it's cloud based or whatever, to try to keep these guys in check, right? They either make them forced to buy that startup to get them off the market, or let the startup disrupt the market. So I think there's a lot of good things to come in 2016, my friend. Let's go to what we were just talking about earlier.
I know.
Car makers and disruption. Is it due to autonomous vehicles?
Yeah. So thanks to The Economist for this one. Where is my notes on this? The Economist and it doesn't say who wrote this thing. So the driverless car sharing, here we go. What is really interesting about this particular article is the manufacturers. They're they're terrified, because this is what the article generally says is that it's this is happening. You know, we saw several states in the United States that have actually okayed this now, and they're actually doing. I know Las Vegas has some. I think a Mercedes that's actually driving on the streets now, testing some of this, and another state, I believe, they're doing a lot of these tests where they're actually they're being used in real world scenarios on a very small basis, but they are, as you know, Greg mentioned, there are shades of gray that they still need to test for things like, you know, will it run over that kid who's running in front of it, you know, or will it make the choice to run over the kid in front of it or hit the people on the sidewalk if it has to, and or just slam it and get rear-ended or what, all those type of things. And not only that, regulation is going to be a big time suck, government regulation to pass all the tests, and that's what took the Tesla so long, is what they're saying. But the fact is, these things are going to happen. 100%, it is going to happen. There are projections about when, what year, but it is going to happen. And that being said, you have to ask yourself, if you're a car manufacturer, how is that going to impact your bottom line if people aren't buying vehicles in droves anymore? Or are they going to own these autonomous vehicles, or are these car manufacturers going to own the fleet of vehicles? How is that going to work? They know it probably will be the latter. It probably will be these companies are doing it, because increasingly the trend, what we're seeing with millennials and everyone else go forward, is not so much in ownership anymore, but things like rent, you know, these time sharing type of things where you're sharing a car for X amount of time, or Uber or Lyft, and people aren't buying homes anymore. They're, you know, they're renting, or they're doing Airbnbs, and that sort of economy in that way seems to be the trend. So ownership seems to be on the way out, is what they're seeing. And not only that, but they're seeing a threat to their very existence with big, large companies like Google or whoever getting into the game that could compete against them. Now, another one that for sure is going to get into it, we hear Apple, right? So was Apple going to create their own vehicles? Or are they going to do what they typically do and partner with some sort of manufacturer? People think they will partner with the manufacturer to release their fleet of vehicles, right? To do this type of thing also. So this is a genuine concern, you know, for these big vehicles, and driverless cars are going to be a tough thing. So as I said, to sum it up really, convincing regulators to allow fully driverless cars onto the street is the next hurdle. Insurers and consumers also need to be one round. If self-driving cars can be introduced first on private roads or designated areas of cities to prove their worth in avoiding accidents and reducing congestion, that might help. Within the industry, the big question is not whether the future will arrive, but whether the tech firms or car makers will grab the spoils. Will the sign on the dashboard say Ford powered by Google, or Google powered by Ford? So that seems to be the question.
Wow. So. Wow. Yeah. I mean, yeah, when we kind of posed this, you know, subject with, let's see, what's his name down in the USC, you know, he was saying being a part of this is, you know, USC professor Jeffrey Miller. Right. He was, you know, he was just very careful. You know, he said that, you know, yes, the Google car's ridden 1 million hours, but that's equivalent to 10 minutes on the LA freeway of the amount of volume of cars. So, you know, he put that in kind of context for me when we were talking about it. But I was talking to a VC the other day, and he was saying the U.S. culture is changing dramatically here because of all these things that you talked about, especially the sharing economy. He felt that with the millennials and the younger generation, we're approaching this kind of like Eastern style of thinking, which was really kind of blowing my mind in a way. I was like trying to think about this, where it's more groupthink. Think about these people who rather share a vehicle than just be in a car by themselves. Think of all these people who would rather, you know, share this other thing with it instead of being. So it's moved this thing to this kind of groupthink, which is kind of an interesting, you know, dagger in individualism here in the United States, if you think about it, right? I mean, that just blows my mind when we started thinking about it. I was like, on the whole bus ride home kind of thinking.
Yeah, wow. I think it's I don't know, but at the same time, we still see the cronyism of, there's a reason we don't have effective mass transit and train systems here like they do in Japan, right? And
sure,
like
Europe.
that, because there's still all that political stuff. So, but if we can actually have a flowing car system that just bypasses sort of that type of like building an infrastructure, type of thing, and to have these automated cars just flowing. That's a real doable type of thing, and there are actual dates being projected now where this will happen. What another really interesting part of this article is Barclays, another bank forecasts that they say that the fully driverless vehicle will result in an average American household cutting its car ownership from 2.1 vehicles now to 1.2 by 2040 is the year. Self-piloting car may drop off family's breadwinner at work and then scuttle back, blah, blah, blah. So that's a big number, for those car manufacturers. That's 50%, right, of their of loss there.
I mean, yeah, if you're a taxi driver, Uber, Lyft driver, watch out.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah.
It's coming.
Right. So fascinating.
Yeah, no, it's great to talk about this. I mean, this feature stuff, especially for the new year. So thank you. That's great.
All right, Big Greg, what do we got now?
Let's talk about another transportation. This is like a transportation
state of the U.S. urban bike culture, my man.
Yeah, we I thought it was a great time to visit. I was down there for a kind of this CES preview. It's called a company called Kobe. It's based in Germany, Germany. I'm sorry, but they just announced launched a kind of a small office at WeWork and a co-working space downtown. Right. And what this kind of interview kind of spun into is a European's view of the U.S. bike culture, and how it's and urban bike culture, especially in San Francisco, and how that's kind of changed. And I have a lot of friends in the Bicycle Coalition, and that's a long time organization here. I've learned more from my friend about the Bicycle Coalition than I ever knew in the previous 20 years of its existence, or 25 years of existence. And if you look at San Francisco, it really is turning in, especially downtown, into a bicycle friendly environment, with these green lanes, for bicycles.
I think California in general, especially Northern California, is very bike centric.
A lot more than the rest of the country, right?
Yeah.
As you're saying. Well, his view as a European coming here to this was really interesting. He says, Greg, we use the bike as a utility, but here it seems like it's a cool thing to do. And I had to think about this, right? And I was like driving my car. Sorry, I wasn't riding my bike, but I was driving my car watching these guys, but. The guys with the yellow jerseys, the guy with the speed jerseys, right? And he's kind of right? Is that, we kind of take this into a kind of like a cool thing to do, or God, oh, hey, I got to order my new Motorola team jersey type of thing, but slowly I see that kind of changing, right? I mean, it's expensive place to live in San Francisco, so that's obviously changing people's minds. Why buy a car? Kind of going back to our previous conversation on autonomous vehicles, right? Why own a car? But a bike is easy to store in a 20 square foot cubicle that I live in. Right. So why not?
And a hell of a lot cheaper. Yeah,
and that's kind of changing the way people are living in these urban centers like San Francisco. I mean, there's more bike friendly places like Portland and other places around the country, but it got me to think about when I was having this conversation. That's why I released this piece on the state of the urban urban bike culture, because it is changing here in San Francisco. I could just see where even cars are like so. They know how, not everyone, but a lot of them know how to work with bicycles in their lanes now, and I just see that, like, okay, yeah, we're gonna have to move around these guys a little bit carefully here, and it's wonderful to see.
Yeah.
So
I know. I mean, Market Street, which is a major street in San Francisco, is pretty much closed now to nothing but buses, taxis, and bicyclists. Almost, it feels like. A lot of that's happening, although there still are a lot of sections that are incredibly dangerous for bicycles, just because I don't think the infrastructure is quite caught up with that, narrow streets, things like that. There are places,
it's not
as you guys know, in cities and neighborhoods where it's just not probably the safest thing to do, but a lot of people take that risk.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, anyway, check that article out on nerdsoccer.com, State of the Urban Bike Culture in the United States. I think it from a European's point of view, it's a really good view of what a European thinks of our kind of urban bike culture and what they're doing to solve that. So anyway, let's move on. What's this ad tech is the worst thing that ever happened to advertising?
Yeah. So thanks to Adam Kleinberg of Advertising Age with this. So really fascinating, because I know increasingly too, what I've noticed now is I forgot about it, but I have a pop-up blocker, right, on my browser, my Chrome browser that you're seeing here on the screen. And oftentimes what I've been noticing now is when I go to certain sites that say, we can't show you our content unless you turn off your ad blocker or something like that, right? So that seems to be showing how effective these things are, right? So what this Adam Kleinberg brings up a fascinating point, and what he's saying is that the ad agencies or the advertising industry has pretty much brought this upon themselves, right? And the abusive use of things like JavaScript and advertising type of ways to get your info or your impression, your click, or whatever it may be that they want has been so nefarious and heavy that it's requiring the public to sort of, this is a backlash by the public, right? This is our we're fighting back, we're sick of this kind of thing. And one really great example is that he sort of admitted that, he wanted to see some article about Shaq, why something 22 photos that prove Shaq is a giant. And he clicked on it, that thing. And then next thing he knew, he got no less than 30 impressions from the same Best Foods mayonnaise banner ad going through that slideshow, right?
Oh man.
So that every time he hits that thing, and not only that, it's getting registered, right? As an impression. And think about how many times you've clicked like an advertising banner or whatever online. It's pretty much been, or your mobile phone, right? I know in Pandora, there's a big cover image that comes over your music if you're not paying, and you may inadvertently click it, and that goes to the website, and that counts as a click from you. So, it's increasingly accidental clicks that are happening that are giving these clients of these companies impressions that the public is actually care about their things. I know that I've been trained pretty much to ignore these things, ignore banners, or use reading add-ons that just strip these things out so I can read the content of a particular article. So that's why they're saying, this is why 89% of them, recent Gartner poll said that they differentiate their brands primarily on basis of customer experience by the end of 2016. One of them, another great example that he said was John Gruber of Daring Fireball exposed that a 537-word all-text post, which should be nothing, on a site called iMore, weighed 14 megabytes. 14 megabytes is enough to download an all-text version of the Bible, right? So this little 537-word post has so much bloat in it on this webpage of iMore that it's requiring 14 megs. So think about what that does to your battery on your mobile phone. So as you traverse these sites, it's draining you. It's draining you of cache and all this stuff. It's doing all that work to do it. So this is why this thing is, the article basically sums up, this is what's happening. So he's saying, many see ad blockers as an existential threat to our business. I see them as a beacon. This is a collective intelligence at work. This is how the Wild West is won. The industry hasn't been able to police ourselves. So consumers will force change upon the industry themselves. Advertising doesn't have to suck. We can tell great stories with digital. We can create marketing that provides value to consumers instead of hurting them. We can even leverage data to do it in an increasing relevant and efficient way. If consumers have anything to say about it, we'll have to. So a nice sort of summary on what's happening here.
Wow. Yeah, the gaming industry is going through the same thing, if you think about it, right? the gaming industry has the same kind of ad network as regular ad networks but I was talking to someone the other day. It's a different kind of environment in the gaming area, right? You're working with a screen. You're focused on this thing. You want to get more things, so these things pop up, so it's pretty dedicated. But when you get to this kind of like this whole digital ad space, I was talking to someone the other day. Do you notice, like on Facebook, our screen's getting smaller and smaller?
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, your
I don't know if you
timeline.
notice that. I noticed that. I mean, I was
a
like,
tiny column. Yeah, you're right.
yeah, so now our updates are putting these small, long,
yeah,
things instead of these wider things, and it's driving me crazy.
Yeah,
but also, when I'm on a website now, if you look at nerdstalker.com, right, we're pretty much ad free, right?
Yeah,
right. And you look at our website content as opposed to someone else's who has this narrow, thin window.
Yeah.
I am just blown away, because I always like when people come to us, when they pitch stories to us, me and Adolfo, they're amazed how well our site looks. Now, the reason why it looks good, I believe, is because there's no ad space.
There's no fluff and there's no extra. Yeah.
And actually, in some ways, we look kind of naked.
Yeah.
If you think about this, but it's an interesting thing that we've now come across in this world of digital ad delivery, and no wonder. I mean, digital ads, if you look at they compare TV ad revenue versus digital ad revenue, right? And the big gap there is in that. Well, no doubt. I mean, I don't know the last time. When was the last time you clicked on a digital ad?
I think it's exactly the same. I think that's what resonated with this article with me, is the last time it was accidental, perhaps, or going through a slideshow of something. I'm, maybe CES photos, and I click on some slideshow on SF Gate or something, and it's going through the slideshows, and I'm clicking next, and next thing I know, I get an advertising impression I inadvertently click on or something like that. But what's even more fascinating to me is how we've been conditioned to ignore these things. So as you mentioned, a lot of people don't even notice that Facebook is like this anymore, or a lot of these articles are like this. So it's here's the meat of your content, and then over here is advertising, and over here is maybe some aggregation, like sign up for this or that or whatever. And how we've been conditioned to just sort of ignore this stuff. It's amazing. Or when you click fast forward on Pandora, and it'll show you a little video. And what a lot of people are doing is you're driving, you're ignoring the video, you turn down your volume all the way, that kind of thing, because the commercial is going to end, you turn it back up, and then you get your music again, or Spotify or whatever, if you're not paying for it. And how we're conditioning ourselves to sort of ignore this stuff and to expect this stuff. It's weird.
Oh yeah. I mean, think about how many YouTube videos you now see that the guy has subscribed to non-ad free, and you have to watch 5 seconds of ads before you get to his video or their video.
Yeah, or how many of those skip ads you've clicked or something on YouTube.
Absolutely, right. And so, they know who you are, and they know how to deal with you. It's just the question is that I think you're absolutely right. What the article pointed out is that this whole ad mob game thing is got to get corrected somewhere along the line, because it's just not becoming effective anymore.
Yeah.
It's
weird.
All right. Let's go to speed round. I saw this on nerdstalker.com, our Nerdstalker Twitter feed. We got to talk about these smart motorcycle lights. I'm a motorcycle rider, and they bring up a very good point. And thanks to Gizmag for doing they're based out of the UK, but they did a great article on actually testing this out.
Those guys,
yeah, really. If you catch some of the videos of this headlight, but anyway, it's a 7-inch headlight, and there's not too many bikes out there that have this 7-inch headlight anymore. But there's a lot of old bikes that do, and so this is a great example of something where you could retrofit your existing headlight, 7-inch headlight. It's like on Jeeps, old Jeeps, it's the same size headlight. You could put this headlight that has this kind of like LED zone kind of, it kind of spreads out the light so that you could actually see around a corner, or at least,
awesome.
Yeah, it's so awesome. So, check this out, please, and give it a like, give it a try. It's a great retrofit, great safety device. I'm for avid motorcyclists, especially those who ride in the dark. So, and those who ride in the city, quite frankly.
You know what's amazing about this article, Greg, that I love is that there's some little blurb in there that's something that says that we've just been living with this crappy previous design for so long. This is the kind of stuff, these little things, like whether it's OXO making nice rubber grips on your can opener or things like this, where like, what the hell? What have we been doing so long? This is a simple fix. This is a simple change, right? And it improves the your just experience of, in this case, even safety of riding a motorcycle, which is so critical, right?
Well, when we interviewed Andreas Freitag of Kobe, right, this kind of smart bike, kind of center that they use for your bike, he says, I mean, we live in the 21st century and we still have to put a switch on our headlight.
Yeah, right.
I mean, come on, I drove in a tunnel for about 10 seconds. Yeah, I would like my light to come on automatically. Thank you.
Yeah, great point.
Little things like that. But you're absolutely right. We've actually conditioned ourselves or live ourselves with these things that we've provided workarounds in our lives where we're not really effectively using technology.
Or this is how it's always been, that mentality.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, it's always been this way.
Yeah, I mean, how much of that in companies we work on? People say that. Why we want to do that? We've been doing this all year. Yeah, God.
Speed round.
Let's go on the next one, man.
All right. So the next one is San Francisco often. Right? So you mentioned earlier, about how expensive the city is to live in. Well, here we go. Apparently, it is for businesses to start their things too. So. Move over Manhattan, office rents in San Francisco have eclipsed those in New York. In your face, New York, you suck. No, I'm just kidding. And so there you go. Look at that. $72. Well, landlords are asking for $72.26 a square foot in the fourth quarter of last year, edging out the $71.85 a square foot in Manhattan. So prices in San Francisco rose 14% last year compared with 7% in Manhattan. So this is crazy. As you can see, the market in San Francisco has largely been driven by the tech industry. Soaring costs of office space in San Francisco has added to the pressures tech companies in the city are feeling. This isn't the case. The funny thing about this article, this isn't the case so much in the South Bay, in Silicon Valley, where there's a sprawling sort of suburban space, right? So what this really has to do with a great deal is how congested and condensed the city is. A lot of people don't know. We call it San Francisco 7 by 7. There's a magazine even like that too, because it's pretty much 7 miles by 7 miles, and there's a boatload of people that live in that area. So the average rent in Silicon Valley as a whole is $52.92 a square foot. Which is significantly less than the average in San Francisco. But that encompasses towns like Milpitas, around $20 a square foot, and the chic streets of Palo Alto near the epicenter of the VC and Stanford University. The average office rent is about $100 a square foot. Insane, right? So the chart-topping office rents in San Francisco are also a testament to the city's geographic constraints. As I said, crammed into its is 47 square miles at the top of the peninsula. The tech scene in the south of the sprawled Silicon Valley is now and will most likely remain far bigger. Of the 172 million square feet of office space in the Bay Area occupied by tech companies, only about 13% is in San Francisco, with around 73% of it in Silicon Valley. So let's keep it real, people. Speed round.
Wow. Great article, man. Yeah, check it out. Okay, let's go to the next one here. 15 interesting startups for New Year's here to watch. Thanks to VentureBeat. Appreciate that. VentureBeat Ken Young, who wrote interesting startups to watch, and just check out some of it. We were talking about phones just the other day, just a little bit ago, and take a look at Nextbit. They have a cloud-based kind of solution, Android-based cloud solution, so you can make sure that everything syncs up everywhere you go. And there was another one in here was, let's see, Viv, artificial intelligence, and that's something that's going to be coming up really heavily in the next year. Yeah, Vive. Vive. I don't know. Vive, Vive, I don't know. Sorry, if I screwed up your name. Drone deploy, which is creating software for drones. I thought it was a really great add-on, especially with all these drones running around. That could be coming up. 3Scan is another thing, which is task of analyzing your cells and tissues and documenting it, which is big, especially with those who want a control of their own bio data space. Here's a company that could be helping you out, man. So check that out from the guys at VentureBeat for 2016. Nice to watch. All right.
So yeah, the next one is sort of like another one of these items that we were talking about, right? So the new wave in tech. A lot of this happens from CES. There was a lot of this hacking the brain stuff, and this seems to be a general trend that is finally, I think, coming to the fore a lot more. So what we see here is the next frontier in the tech sector is the human brain. The new breed of neurohacker is finding ways to capture and manipulate brainwaves to improve health, with potential to help the severely handicapped. I know we've talked about several of these stories where paraplegics and things like that can use small movements, eye tracking, mouth movement. A lot of it now is what they're looking into is brain waves, which is completely fascinating. So a number of the innovations were on display at CES, where computer scientists and biomedical experts showcased ways to tap into and use brain signals, which is nice to see something besides drones at CES. The mind control headband unveiled by startup Brainco effectively hacks into brain signals with a range of possible applications, from helping to improve attention spans, which I need, to detecting disease, controlling smart home appliances, or even a prosthetic device. The device translates your brain waves into electrical signals. So they demoed this, and it's super fascinating what's happening there. A lot of it is, a lot of it is obviously happening from Asian countries, South Korean startups, China manufacturing companies, and things like that. So they're seeing huge potential, huge movements forward in this, and as well as meditation aids too. They're using neurofeedback techniques is being applied as a meditation aid by Canadian-based Interaxon and its Muse headband. Muse uses sensors on the forehead and behind the ears to measure brain signals and advise users on how to improve their meditation technique. The coaching app helps people to achieve a level of consistency in their meditation efforts. So we're seeing more and more of this kind of thing where technology and this sort of inner health type of movement too are sort of intersecting. So it's really, really fascinating what's happening with the brain technology and just thoughts, right?
Gosh, that's cool stuff, man.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been watching this technology for years on this channel, and just to see it actually come alive with something that wow, just through our devices and stuff like that. I mean, with the wearable technology and everything, that's
yeah. In addition to augment. So yeah.
God,
awesome.
Cool
Tip
stuff.
time.
Thank you. Tip time. Oh, what are we? Oh yeah, we're at tip time. Oh shoot.
At tip time?
Oh yeah. Tip time. Anyway,
tip time.
Let's go to FLUXO, huh? So anyway, we interviewed just this last week a new Kickstarter, well, not a new Kickstarter campaign that's actually ending today, called FLUXO, the world's first truly smart lamp. And, I think it's the first really, truly kick-ass smart lamp on the market.
Nice.
It's a pendant basically, and it's a zone LED device that allows that you could control through your smartphone. So you could set mood lighting with it, and man, they've just obliterated their $54,266 dollar pledge goal of about 422,000 currently.
Oh, great!
And as about 27 hours ago, like I said, and they just added while we did our interview a new stretch goal, which they've already obliterated, which was actually to allow developers to develop with it.
Oh, cool.
With SDK. So it's a great device. It's a little bit expensive. It's $400, but I think that if you're a early adopter, and want to get into the world of smart lighting, this is a really great pendant. It's a self-contained light. It isn't a light bulb that you screw in. It's actually a light fixture. So I recommend it as a tip to go check out and check out with our channel. So appreciate that.
What does it do though? What makes it $400 worthy of? How does this differ from something like a Hue?
Well, I think what they're saying is that you have the ability to create a mood with different colors, move the lighting in the center of the room towards your workspace a little bit more. Those are some of the things. The lighting control is just off the charts. And now what they're moving towards, Adolfo, is this whole kind of sonus lighting type of environment, right? As you move into a different room, your phone will start to know who you are, what you normally do, and adjust the lighting into that area that you really want you go to more often in the room. Let's say your desk in the room's there. Before you move in, it'll actually turn on that light on your desk and type of thing. At least that's the dream that they look at. Yeah. So I think it goes beyond just this kind of adjustable lighting concept to this whole kind of environmental lighting concept. So it's
I'll
pretty
have to look
cool.
into this further. Interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, that's my
FLUXO.
tip. Yeah,
go FLUXO yourself. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, go Jamstik yourself, my friend.
Hey! What a segue! Look at that! Look at that guy. He's a professional. So Jamstik, yeah. So I'll be doing a review on this pretty soon. Just got one of these guys too. Very interesting device. So what Jamstik is like you see it hopefully on the screen. This little video thing. It's like this little almost ukulele-sized rectangle kind of thing, and it's like a little guitar. What makes this really fascinating is that it's Bluetooth also enabled. So what it does is it connects to any iOS or Android device, and it effectively will teach you how to play guitar. So I've been using this daily, and I got some calluses to prove it now. And it's really improved my guitar playing. And it comes with some free apps too to teach you how to play guitar. And there are actually apps for games in a Guitar Hero type of fashion too, which help you get better at playing guitar. As you can see here, that shows that type of thing. And it's been a lot of fun. And I'm really surprised by the quality of the lessons too and the apps. It's quite extensive type of lesson, teaching you how to pick the chords, the notes. You learn how to read music basically with this thing too through repetition and fun games, and it actually lights up exactly where you're pressing down because there's some infrared technology in the fret, so it can tell exactly where your fingers are if you're double pressing. I have very bad I have weak fingers. I'm not the greatest, especially if there's a lot of action on not enough action or too much action on the fretboard, and then not good for me. So it's good so I can practice and develop my finger techniques on the fretboard, which I've needed real bad here. It's got like a little mute bar at the bottom there, and people only think, oh well, am I only limited to these 3, 4, 5, 6 frets? No, you can actually down tune it too. And what's really cool about this too is that it's not just a guitar, it'll play anything. It does violin, it's effectively a MIDI device, right? So it can play anything, piano, violin, whatever, horns. You can hook it up to a device and make electronic music with it. It's really, really neat and a lot of fun. If you have to, obviously it makes it really simple to travel with. If you're a guitar player and you don't want to lug that big thing around, this thing is super cool. So it's a lot of fun. It seems to be getting better and better. A little awkward for how small it is if you're used to a big heavy guitar and the feel of it. I'm hoping that they maybe release some sort of third-party extension to counterweight it because it's just so lightweight. There's a lot of YouTube videos on this, and the apps are free, as I mentioned, most of them, for learning how to use it and how to play it. You can see some companion apps here. There's Jamstik, Jam Tutor, Jam Mix, which is really neat, and yeah, really cool. I think this thing's roughly $300, so $299. Wow, it's on sale for the trade show week or whatever. So go get it while you can. Very cool. Jamstik.
So, Jamstik or a FLUXO? Interesting.
Yeah.
Choices. Interesting choices out there.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Tip Jam. Yeah, so that's your tip.
Thank you so much. That's beautiful. Wow.
What kind of events do we got happening, Greg?
Well, we have on the 20th, SF New Tech. We are the media sponsor for SF New Tech, as you know. And it looks like they have this standard pitch night with PingPad, Affectiva, VapExhale. Well, we know what that's going to be like. JobSpeaker, Evlo, and more, they say. And then on the same night, if you're into IoT and you don't see anything at SF New Tech you want to see, the Open Innovation Club, which is part of the French Tech Hub in the wonderful neighborhood of Dogpatch in San Francisco, is holding an event from 5:30 to 8:30. So, you have a couple of choices on the 20th coming up. And also you have the JP Morgan Health event if you're into biotech and other things like that. So anyway, that's what's coming up for us here at Nerd Stalker in January.
Excellent. All right. So I'm Adolfo Ferranda at A Ferranda on Twitter, or at Nerdstalker. You can reach us there as well. Greg, how about you? Where do they get more information about you?
You can reach me on Social Greg on Twitter or at socialgreg@nerdstalker.com. And, what I want to say is that if you like this podcast, whether you're on YouTube or other places, like us below, please.
Yeah.
And if you really like our channel, subscribe to us by hitting the subscribe button below as well. And also, as a reminder, you can suggest some stories to us by hooking up with us on Twitter or Facebook, as we just said, at aferranda, or at Social Greg on Twitter. And if you are on iTunes audio and video, rate us, and YouTube channel, it's Nerdstalker TV. Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Greatly appreciate it.
8K Social Greg on Twitter, and you are?
Adolfo Ferranda at A Ferranda on Twitter. Thank you for everyone for watching and listening out there. Appreciate him.
All right.
Happy New Year.
Be careful out there.